All right, I just want to briefly talk, try and keep this under definitely 10 minutes. Just a little bit about my personal weight loss journey and the struggles I've had. So, I think in 2009, I had posted on bodybuilding.com a 2-month weight loss transformation. I had lost 20 pounds in about 2 months, and I found it really easy, and it offered me all of the benefits that people tend to say they have on a ketogenic diet. My appetite was much lower. I felt good the whole time. I didn't know the truth about fat back then. I just intuitively knew that you know, when I want to lose weight, when I want to on-bloat and get less puffy, I got to cut out the carbs. And I do know that carbohydrates for me really affect my metabolism. I'm wondering if I was that young that I was falling asleep after carb meals, if I'm predisposed to insulin resistance. I've done all of my blood markers because I have the benefit of working at the hospital and can work with a doctor and ask him to follow my stuff. So where am I now? 3 years ago, I kind of did the exact same thing. I reduced severely my carbs, and I was still eating the fruits and vegetables. I was pretty much doing what I did in 2009, and I lost a significant amount of weight. I went from 225 to, let's say, I think it was 195. And I slacked off. I was doing some running and stuff like that also 3 years ago, 5-10 kilometers. So that was also helping a little bit too, burning a few extra calories. And I did well. I over the winter stopped the running. A lot of the time we are low carbish. We don't eat really. 3 years ago we weren't eating you know, awful. We'd probably, I'd consider to say that we were above average of most people. So we were eating healthy, but my weight was fluctuating you know, over the prior to the 3 years. I'd go up, I'd go down, and I always managed to get down with a carb restriction. But when I'd re-eat some carbs, my appetite would come back. So it was really having slight benefits, but I wasn't being consistent in it. So then the next by next summer, I continued to start over with the running, but that's when I found low carb ketogenic diets, and I went hardcore into it. I want to shout out for ruled.me. That helped me a lot. Diet Doctor website is extremely good too, and the whole low carb, high fat or keto community and keto carnivore community. All these people, I owe so much gratitude. All the doctors and the lectures that are available for the proponents pushing the low carb, high fat, showing us the science and showing us the truth and getting us all back into amazing health. It's been a wonderful journey. It definitely has improved all of my anxiety, depression, insomnia. I definitely feel a lot more better, and kind of that sense of well-being. You know, you're not super happy, but there's like that sense of contentment with a nice clear focus and a nice very stable energy throughout the day, without being annoyed by cravings. It's great to eat food, okay, and enjoy it, but not be obsessed by it. It's allowed me to intermittent fast. It's allowed me to get the benefits of fasting. And if you look at a lot of the pictures, maybe I'm delusional, but I look younger. So all the research into intermittent fasting, the metabolic advantages, the superior metabolic advantages of a low carb diet is just amazing. It is not restrictive. It feels like it's restrictive, just like a cigarette smoker would feel that it's restrictive. When you get off and you start with the ketogenic diet, a well-balanced ketogenic diet, going after all your daily micronutrients, getting the omegas, all right, avoiding the seed oils, and eating only when hungry. All of these things are so simple. It might look very restrictive, But in the end, it's very simple, dude. Just don't eat the carbs and eat whole food, right? So where am I in my ketogenic diet? When I did start, I was eating too much fat. So at one point I did plateau. Basically, I was putting coffee in my cream instead of cream in my coffee. But it's amazing because it only made me plateau. I was literally drinking like pretty much a carton of dairy. It was my new addiction, and it wasn't even making me fat. Okay, there's something to say about that. It basically just plateaued me. But then I realized that if I was supplying too much fat in my diet nutritionally, and I was still in the weight loss phase of it, I had a lot of fat stored that I want to access. So technically I could be supplying enough fat nutritionally that I don't need to do take my own stores. I'd still be in ketosis, I'd have ketones, I'd still feel good in it, but I wouldn't necessarily be draining out the fat stores. So I learned that I had to cut back a bit on the fat and really just give the minimum amount of fat to satiety. And it worked very well. And now that I'm super lean, I don't want to lose weight. I went 10 pounds underneath when I was, and that's a few, maybe 4 months ago, 3 months ago, I stopped and I said, okay, now I don't want to lose weight. I'm as lean as I want. So then I started to reintroduce fats so that I can meet my daily requirement and it's not further sucking down my fat stores. I'm probably not at 10% body fat. Therefore, I at least have easily 40, 50,000 calories still stored. But I'm happy where I am, and now I want to start using the benefits of intermittent fasting and the manipulation of the increased growth hormone. So what I do is basically I do exercise before putting a demand. I like to pretend that I am out catching my animal like a caveman. I worked for my food, so I do a little exercise, whether it's like tons of push-ups till failure, a little sprint outside, a few curls, some kind of activity to pretend that I made some kind of physical exertion to earn my food. And it tends to go in the right place because there's a demand for it. I wasn't stagnant. There's a guy on the internet that is Beast Feast Fast. What's his name? I'm sorry, man, but he's well known. Kesher, this is embarrassing. I'm going to talk, I'll put his name up because he deserves the benefit, at least for me talking about it, because I learned that from him and it made a lot of sense. So I did adapt the Beast Feast Fast, but that's not necessarily my idea. It might not be his idea, but he's really one that like threw that into the low carb community. So I don't want to take credit for that, but it makes sense. So then after this whole carnivore society, this group of keto people went full carnivore. That means totally animal-based with zero fruits or vegetables. Paul Saladino is a doctor. Sean Baker is a doctor. There are doctors and scientists that are justifying this, especially for autoimmune diseases, to exclude everything from your diet to see if there's any possible factors that are aggravating, possibly anti-nutrients, oxalates that are in animal plant foods to protect them against predators. So I did the research. I looked up all of my essential vitamins, all of my essential fats, and all of my complete proteins are met within a animal-based diet. I am proud to say that I'm not plant-based. I am animal-based. Okay, there is no controlled randomized trial showing why saturated fat is causing an issue, why cholesterol is causing an issue. There is no science behind that. It's just a bunch of questionnaires that can maybe make associations. But to this date, there's no causes. Humans have been consuming meat and animal products since the dawn of man. Okay, we were not drying soy patties on cave walls. Okay, it's known. We were hunting. We were consuming the fat, the meat, the organs, the bone marrow, nose to tail, like Paul Saladino says, all right? So I do that, okay? I am heavily animal-based. A strong avoidance of seed oils, a strong emphasis on fatty, omega-rich animal sources, such as salmon, sardines, mackerel, salmon roe, caviar, eggs that are pasture raised. probably missing some, but it's a high emphasis right now what I'm doing on omega-3 to correct that 6:3 ratio that is out of whack. I avoid seed oils like the plague, okay? They're oxidized, they're mutating, I believe, and the research seems to be showing, the recent one in the British Medical Journal in 2008 of oxidized omega-6 seed oils causing, not associate, causing the oxidation of these LDL, which then become problematic while they're trying to do their job, okay? Cholesterol is only trying to transport nutrients, okay? LDL is only trying to be a little shuttle to transport all the good stuff that you're supposed to be supplying the body. But if you're supplying crap, if you have high insulin environments, if you have fluctuating glucoses, if you have a body that is by Crisco because all you're supplying the majority of it with a 20 times more omega-6. Your body needs to use that. Your brain is 60% fat. What happens if there's no more omega in your diet? What happens if you're tons of omega-6? Okay, early onset Alzheimer's and stuff like that. So at this point, I am keto. I am animal-based. We could say I'm a keto carnivore. I do eat some fruits and vegetables, and I eat it for variety. I eat it because I'm having a craving for it, a hankering for some berries. I love my berries. Therefore, I eat them knowing that I don't really need them to supply any of the nutrients I have because I've already dealt with it through my animal sources of food. So therefore, I just use it because I like berries. Once in a while, I'll have a pickle. I like pickles. I like olives. But I'm not running after them every day thinking I got to add this, I got to add some kind of green, I have to add some kind of fruit for micronutrients. If you actually take the time, guys, to look at the nutrient profiles of animal source protein compared to that super spinach and kale and stuff like that, it blows it out of the water. If I was to pop up two, okay, and ask you which one's the superfood, it would be the animal-based protein. It would put spinach and kale and all of those so-called super nutrient dense foods to shame. And what about plant-based micronutrients that are not even in a bioavailable form? They're precursors. Beta carotene. You're not getting vitamin A, you're getting beta carotene that has a conversion rate in humans from 6 to 65%. Therefore, somebody who has an animal, somebody who has a highly plant-based diet with complete avoidance of animal foods will, if they are one of those poor people that only convert vitamin A, beta carotene by 6%, these people will get very, very ill on a plant-based diet. Therefore, you're totally covered with your macronutrients if you're getting them from animal sources. But when you're getting them only from plant-based, you're also getting the defense mechanisms that these plants have. All right, oxalates, lectins, anti-nutrients, proteins that are inflammatory, not just gluten. So when you're looking at all of these things, you have to realize that they are overhyped, okay? And I think for economics, political, lobbyists, whatever, the animal source proteins are being under-acknowledged, the dense nutrient and bioavailable form. If you're avoiding fat like the plague, all of those nutrients that you're trying to induce, if they're the fat soluble vitamins, they're not being absorbed very well at all. Except when you're eating animal source protein, there's always protein and animal fats mixed with the nutrients. It's available. We know that meat is easily digested. It never comes out at the other end when you're in the bathroom. You do get that with plant matter. Fiber is not essential, all right? Possibly it's essential when you're eating only carbs, but when you're eating a highly animal-based diet, it's easily absorbed, fairly high in the digestive tract. Nothing gets stuck in there. It's a myth. No one has a hot dog from 1985, all right? So that's my weight loss journey. I did a lot of prolonged fasting and quite a lot of frequent intermittent fastings and 1 meal a day. I wasn't worried because I knew that as long as my insulin was low and my carbohydrates were severely restricted, that I really wasn't starving myself. I had plenty of calories available from my fat stores. My metabolism was maintained because I was getting fed plenty, all right? I was being fed my body butter, all right? Now, I can't fast many days, okay? If I would do it, it would be once or twice a year for a little bit more prolonged, just for the autophagy and the cellular cleaning and the health benefits and the stem cell productions, the rejuvenating effects of a little bit more prolonged fast. I can't do it right now because I'm a little too lean and I'm trying to put on a muscle. You can do one meal a day as long as you're getting all the nutrients that you need. Now, the calorie people, the calorie in and calorie out people that are obsessed with this will criticize that fat, because it's 9 calories per gram compared to protein and fat, I think there are 4 or 5. It's almost double. Therefore, if you're thinking the calories is all that matters and not hormones, then yeah, fat is something you want to reduce because you're going to spill over. But when you're doing one meal a day and you're eating like a caveman, the way you should be, it's awesome that that fat is super nutrient dense, and it's awesome that you should be eating 80% almost, the majority of your macronutrients as nice, lovely, structure building fat, hormone building fat, and energy giving fat. So that's pretty much all I got to say. I'm following my labs. I've done the research. I'm listening to the doctors that are going with keto carnivore. I enjoy fruits and vegetables, so I do consume them, and that's just because I feel like it that day. I'm not worried that I'm nutrient deficient. So do your research. If you are having any underlying conditions that the doctors really are not even sure what to do with, I think it's worth checking Sean Baker, Paul Saladino, what's her name? Michaela Peterson. These are all carnivore people that have been doing this for years, okay? Like some are 10 years and more. And these are doctors, and Sean Baker did a coronary artery calcium scan, and his score was freaking amazing. And Ivor Cummings explains that this is probably one of the best markers to follow. Look into cholesterol, saturated fat. Guys, that's all been debunked. But for selfish reasons, they're just not telling the people. They're not making articles about that. I eat 4 to 8 eggs a day. All right, if you look at the nutrient profile of free-range animals, look at it. It almost touches everything. Vitamin C is not really a concern. If you're eating the wide variety, also some organ meats, you only need about 10 milligrams of vitamin C per day. There are smaller amounts within animal products to cover it. No one's getting scurvy on this diet. But if you want to add a slight amount of vitamin C from berries or broccoli, for example, then feel free to do that, guys. So it's more of an issue that you should talk about if you're going full keto carnivore. It's not an issue if you're doing keto. The reason also about vitamin C is that vitamin C and glucose enter and compete for the same entry point into the cell, and their molecules are very, very closely similar. Therefore, when the body is using carbs at a high degree, there's a lot of vitamin C that needs to be added because there's so much of the other one competing for the entry point. You gotta up this army here to compete again, you know, or else if there's too little, you're not getting your vitamin C. But when you severely pull back on this molecule that looks like vitamin C, then your vitamin C needs are a lot lower because that's vitamin C doesn't have to compete. So everything has to be rethought. Lab values, everything, okay? When I was fasting and I wanted to check my stuff, my ketones were at 5. The lab was completely confused why my sugar was normal and I had high ketones because they're not used to understanding the biochemistry and the labs that would come out that would be normal and beneficial. So there's a lot of work to do, all right? I love it that we're confusing the heck out of everything. Thanks, see ya.